First up this morning, we continue to talk about Donald Trump, the statements that he made. He's modified it some. The initial statement was Monday, he called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. He's modified that somewhat and said this was always meant to be temporary, and just until we get a handle on things and find out, I think, what he said, what the hell is going on. And naturally, there's been a polarizing of this. There's been a lot of people condemning it, including a lot of Republicans, but others have said, no, that's what you should do when you don't know what you're doing, and try to prevent more attacks in the United States post-San Bernardino, post-Boston, post the attack on the U.S. military base. Let's find out what one of the leading Republicans, the leading Republican in West Virginia, thinks about this. U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Senator, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great, Hoppy. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on. Do you support or oppose what Donald Trump said?
I oppose it wholeheartedly. I think it's divisive. I think it's sort of outlandish, and I don't think it achieves the goal. I think what he's doing really is, stirring up a feeling that in the end we should be uniting around a feeling of how to destroy ISIS, how to get a hold of the terrorist threat. I do agree that we need increased screenings and tightened security, but not by excluding, all Muslims from entering the United States. That just goes way too far, in my opinion.
A new Rasmussen poll out today, telephone survey, finds 66% of likely Republican voters favor a temporary ban on all Muslims entering the United States until the federal government improves its ability to screen out potential terrorists. So 2/3 of likely Republican voters apparently tend to agree with Donald Trump. Does that put you out of the mainstream with your own party?
Well, according to that poll, I just don't agree with it. I think it's way too far. It's divisive. I think, we need Muslim countries to help us fight. We have a Muslim community in and around West Virginia that are very much the fabric of our country. So I just think that we need to look at visa waivers. We need to look at making sure that we have the protocols in place to prevent people coming in this country that could pose a danger. Yes, all of that. We need more cybersecurity. Yes, all of that. But the way he's phrased it and framed it is just over the top.
But he has seemed to have touched a nerve. It had certainly dominated the news cycle since Monday afternoon. You've probably heard from people who say maybe they whisper it to you, maybe they shout it out like, I think he's right. I don't want to be a bigot, but gosh, I think he's right about this. What do you say to those folks? If you've gotten any of that comment.
I haven't had anybody say that.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I will say this. He's running for president. And so he has a pattern, I think, of going big and then pulling back, so he grabs the news cycle. I mean, he didn't become a billionaire by, not clever thinking and good strategy. And I think this is part of his strategy. But what it's doing, Hoppy, is where should our real focus be? In my opinion, our real focus should be on isolating, containing, and destroying ISIS, figuring out how to get into the social media recruitment process that they're very successful on. You're seeing this coming out of the California case, that a lot of this radicalization was developed over the internet. To me, this is where we should be focusing our attention rather than excluding an entire segment, which kind of goes against our own principles that we were founded on. So I think, let's track where people have been. Let's get chips in passports that can help us with the European community, interchange information. These are the things I think we should be concentrating on.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is with us and strongly opposes the comments by Donald Trump about blocking temporarily Muslims entering the country. So do you think that this is having a harmful effect with the U.S. allies that are Muslim, like Turkey? And
I think it's possible. We need to have Turkey. We need Saudi Arabia. We need the United Arab Emirates, who have worked with us to help us use Air Force and air assets in Asia. So I don't know how it could help. And I think in the end it could hurt. And, this is a world community we're dealing with now. We just need to get a handle on where the radicalization is and stamp it out.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is with us. You have not, to my knowledge, said which of the Republican candidates you support. Obviously, you would support the nominee. There are a lot of established Republicans who are very worried, as you know, about a Trump candidacy, thinking that the conventional wisdom is that this would be a doomsday scenario for the Republican Party. You look at some of the polls of Trump's negative, the suggestion being that if he would get the nomination, it would essentially secure a victory for Hillary Clinton. A, do you buy into that scenario? And B, does that worry you as what I would call, not in a derogatory way, but a rather established Republican?
Well, I'm concerned about who the next president is in terms of homeland security, in terms of the effect it's going to have on West Virginia. Hillary Clinton will not be good for West Virginia, and I don't think that she has the trustworthiness or the policy agenda that I think is good for this country. So I'm going to support the Republican nominee, absolutely.
All right, would that be if it's Trump? Would you support Trump over Hillary Clinton?
We'll see what happens, but I'm not going to support Hillary Clinton. That's for certain.
But you would support the nominee even if the nominee is Donald Trump.
I will support the Republican nominee. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you about education. The United States Congress has passed. The president is going to sign, I believe, a revision of No Child Left Behind. And this kind of legislation gets way down in the weeds really quickly. But what is this revision and why, which you supported, and why is it significant?
Well, it's significant because it does a couple things. It moves the responsibility and the flexibility back to the states, school boards, parents, teachers, who I think are better equipped and more passionate about their children's education than anybody could be here in a bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. It ends the Common Core mandate. It lets the states be held accountable. It does retain the testing, and I think that's important. I mean, I have 3 children who went through the school. You want to know where your child's standing, where your school's standing. So I think that it has a heavy emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and math on the STEM areas, which are the jobs of tomorrow. But it gets rid of No Child Left Behind and all the negativity that's been associated with it. And it's the best reform. We had 85 senators vote for it yesterday. I think it was overwhelming in the House. I think it's an early present to West Virginia families.
Mm-hmm. And so why should West Virginia education officials or local officials not just groan and roll their eyes and say, oh, okay, here comes another big bushel of paperwork on how we're supposed to do education?
Because really, the state board is supportive of this. The West Virginia Education Association has been supportive of this. It really has been how Washington should work, with Lamar Alexander leading it in the Senate, with Patty Murray as his ranking member, to really negotiate these changes with the most interested parties. And I think the West Virginia education community is going to throw up their hands and say, finally, Washington's off our backs. We can create and do the things we know are going to work better for our state.
One of the amendments that you got added promotes digital learning. It's supposed to promote digital learning. We hear a lot about 24/7 learning and not just learning from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So what does this do on that front?
Well, Angus King, who's a Democrat senator from Maine, we're rural states, and there's this homework gap that's being created. Through my Capito Connect, I've thought a lot about broadband connectivity because West Virginia is so woefully behind. What this will help with is innovative ways that schools can send an iPad or something home with the child, and they can have the connectivity at home that's going to allow them to be prepared in the classroom the next day. And if you don't have it at home, you're going to be behind again. And there are things like in Maine, they have a program where the library has one of those digital hotspots where you can, plug into a device. Mm-hmm. Maybe let the children, check that out, take it home, then they're connected. That's just one idea that's out there, but we need to spur on innovation and ways to get that connectivity to everybody.
Boy, we still, though, are, and I don't know what the numbers are, I just know I have a sense that we're still behind in connectivity to high speed across much of the state because, let's face it, if we're a rural state and if you live up the hollow and there's 8 to 10 houses up there, it's just you're going to be the last one to get connected.
Yeah, but you got to remember, we have a universal service fund that we all pay into on our phone bills. All those little lists of things that you have that you pay. that is going to people across the country to get them connected. And the next tranche of funding, which Frontier has in the state of West Virginia, is supposed to go to underserved and unserved. So, this is millions of dollars where we're supposed to be reaching those hollows, reaching those people that are most difficult to find. And so we're kind of holding the feet to the fire there to make sure that actually occurs.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right. So Capito, very critical of Trump's comments. And so when asked the direct question, do you support those comments or oppose, she says unequivocally she opposes those comments.